how can people have the momentum to, continue getting through this project, and not to say that it ever ends, but to stick with it? How do you build momentum when documenting the business?
I think it starts with having wins. I mean, that's how you build momentum, right? Because people will continue to do things that they are enjoying, things that actually give them ROI, things that they feel like there is some kind of a reason why doing it, right? So in order to build momentum, I always like to start with that area that, if you had well documented processes and procedures, will get you the biggest return on investment, right? So you just need to know where to start the documentation. And I know, Chris, you addressed it in your book. And I think it's like that is super important, is to know where to start. Because if right now I'm going to start, let's say there is no problems in your HR department, but you decided to start documenting your HR department, well, it's kind of demoralizing, because you're not going to see a lot of changes. You're going to have great documentation. But if you know that your HR staff is stable, they're not going anywhere, but here you have like fires and problems in your operations or your sales department, start with the sales department. If you are about to hire 3 estimators, start with your sales department. Then you will see how you're putting order, and things will become easier and easier to put more order and more order. And then eventually you'll document everything. But that way you can actually do it in a very focused, planned way that gives you immediate wins. It's kind of like the low-hanging fruit that can immediately create an impact in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's certain roles that have a lot of chaos in them. You may have a lot of people doing one thing, and so there's a greater risk of inconsistency. And that could be a really good place to start. Or you might have an area of your business where there is negative customer feedback or something like that. You really need to dig into that and figure out what is the best way, what is the best practice that we should all be using in this area of the business. And you're right. As soon as you write those things down and you get everyone's buy-in, you start to see the win. Like, okay, we fixed that area of the business. Now let's move on to this one. Now let's move on to this one. And that is what creates the momentum, or the snowball effect. So, this is definitely a team effort. You've got to create buy-in across the team to get this started first. And so when you're working with a client of yours, how do you initially build trust of, okay, you're coming in, and what is she here for? Like, what is this all about? How do you build trust from the beginning?
The way that I do it is I interview either myself or one of the consultants that is on my team, that they're all very qualified and have a lot of experience. So we come in and first of all, we interview the stakeholders. We decide who the stakeholders are, and then we interview them and we ask them a bunch of questions. We survey them to find their why documenting, why processes and procedures. How is that going to help you? How not help the company, of course, but how is it going to help you? What are your goals? Whether you would like to actually be able to leave work at 5 o'clock or 5:30, but you can't do it right now. Whether you want to get promoted, but you are the only one who knows how to do what you're doing right now. Maybe you want an assistant. You feel like, you are so overloaded and you need an assistant. That's an example. I mean, I was working with a company where they had very seasoned salespeople, and, and I'm coming there to document their sales procedures. And they go like, why do we need to do that? I mean, we're not going anywhere. We know what to do. We're not going to spend the time. We much rather be out there selling and making money. So I did that survey on them and really found out that what they're running into is they would love to, the problem that they were running into is that when they pass the sale to the operations, it's not a smooth pass. So then the client get upset. They sometimes want a refund, so it's a problem. That part of the process was a problem. So then, I talked to them and we brainstormed and we said, okay, well, if that part would be smooth, they're willing to write the process from beginning to end so operations can really understand what sales is doing, because they're not going to run into that problem, and that's definitely going to avoid a lot of problems. They also really wanted a sales assistant because they felt that they can go and sell more if there can be an assistant that can help them throughout the process. But without having a documented process, they really didn't know what would the assistant do. So by documenting it, we actually gave them an assistant. And we also smooth out the transfer, the passing from sales to operations, and that made it very smooth, and they all had a buy-in in that. So it's really selling to the people you're working with what's their why and how can we accomplish their why.
Yeah, so it's really a communication thing. I mean, I did the same when I would do consulting. I would go in and do all these interviews with people, get to know them so that I could then influence, well, here's how this is a solution that will help you achieve your goals. And so you're right, it is selling to an extent. And in the absence of that communication and the context and the goals, people can snap into a place of fear or misunderstanding, or, why are we doing this? Are they trying to get rid of me? Is the company downsizing? And that's a very unhealthy outcome. And so I think the more upfront you can be about why we're doing this as a company, how this is going to impact you in a positive way, then you start to get people that want to participate because they see this activity as the most productive thing that they could be doing for the business because it's furthering them toward their goals. And everyone in a company wants to get closer to their own goals and aspirations. And so this is a tool to make that happen.